Hello class, this is session 14 and our topic today is monitoring and evaluating the plan. By plan, of course, we mean strategic plan. One of the most critical steps in the monitoring and evaluation phase is to create what we call key performance indicators, which help you then track and monitor whether or not you are on time, on target with costs and outcomes. So that's what we're going to talk mainly about today. The key questions that you must ask, and the time frame for the first year should be every 3 months, and then if it's a 3-year plan, you may want to do it twice a year, unless of course there are problems and you may do it more often. The key questions to ask are we on track? Will the goals be achieved within the time frame we have allotted in the plan? And if not, what's going on? Why are they not being met? Is it that we need better resources, maybe more people, maybe more money, maybe different equipment? Are they external to the organization? But we need to ask, why are they not being accomplished? The second piece of that, if the goals are not being accomplished, ask yourselves, how realistic were the goals? Should they be postponed or changed? I know many organizations who have to postpone goals that cannot be met because of changing circumstances. So that's a legitimate reason. And if you don't stop and monitor every 3 months, you will wind up at the end of the year not completing a goal and then wondering why this was not articulated and identified and changed to another date or postponed indefinitely if that need to be the case. And the last question you ask if goals are not on time is, are the deadlines realistic? Did we bite off more than we can chew, so to speak? Did we have a realistic plan that changed because of other circumstances? So we're going to ask ourselves these questions. Why has the goal not been achieved? Are the goals themselves realistic? And are the deadlines realistic? Now, most importantly is to revisit what I like to call lessons learned. To talk about what are we learning about the process that we can use in the future. What are the good steps that we have taken that we can replicate? What are some of the warning signs that we need to be aware of? So always debrief with lessons learned. Now let's go to take a look at those key performance indicators. These indicators of success allow an organization to know exactly what they're doing, whether they are on track, behind, ahead of schedule. They're known as KPIs, key performance indicators. Those charged with implementing the action plans, strategies, and tactics are then responsible for collecting the data and providing the status report, so that if it's delegated to a particular department or program, those are the people who collect the key performance indicators. I'll come back to that. Then if there are issues, gather the right people in the room to determine why the particular performance is not being met as per the expected and identified indicator. Examine the action plans, the strategies, the tactics. Conversely, if the goal is on track and is being met, use this information to determine, can we replicate this and use it elsewhere in the strategic plan so that we can have better results elsewhere. The strategic planning committee as a whole must always take action based on the performance outcome data, revisiting and revising lagging or declining performance, as well as recognizing and duplicating exceptional performance. Here are some examples of key performance indicators in some organizations. So if the strategic plan had one of its goals as offering quality customer service, perhaps one of the key performance indicators might be to identify and examine the number of complaints that have come in. If the goal identified as an outcome the reduction in staff turnover, you may want to take a look at the number of voluntary terminations to see how that holds up. if filling staff vacancies in a timely fashion is a goal, you would look at the length of time between the beginning of the recruitment phase when you put the ad in and you receive the resume to the actual hiring and start date, and look at the length of time to see whether or not there are steps that can close the gap between the initial and the final course, the final step of hiring. Or lastly, if the goal was to reduce program costs, certainly you would want to document and identify the cost per service hour. So those are just some examples of key performance indicators. Remember, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And the data is collected by the Department of Program responsible for overseeing that particular program's strategies and tactics. It is gathered by them and discussed at senior management along with the strategic planning committee so that an assessment can be made about whether or not they are on track or whether they are lagging and the reasons why. Remember that the evaluation process is ongoing. Even as shifts are being made in strategies and tactics and even action plans, the process of measuring, monitoring, and reporting on performance would and should continue. So here's a summary of what we talked about today. A combination of leading and lagging measures can provide early warning signs of performance, and use either a scorecard or dashboard to collect your results. I mentioned that earlier, and I said for those of you who are interested, you can go online and get more information on how to use a scorecard or dashboard. They're both very visuals and often use colors, red light, green light, yellow light, to tell you whether something is completed, on time, or has a problem. Remember that you have to establish a process for reviewing and responding to measures. So that's the monthly or tri-monthly meeting during the first year. Remember, measuring alone is not what's important. It's then acting on the measures and the results. Course correction might involve the creation of a new action plan. And those components be sure to include who is going to do it, who will be the owner, and who will work with the owner. Identify the other staff. When will they do it? When will they start? When is their milestone check-in? And when is it expected to be completed? And where will they do it? Is it an internal site or is it an external site? Lots of organizations have multi-sites. Some of them work with other organizations. So identifying where they do it helps create the action plan. And then you have to ask, what are their strategies and tactics? How will they do it? I like to ask that question 3 times. How will they do it? How else will they do it? How else will they do it? And lastly, how much time will it cost? How much will it cost and how much time will it take? Do you expect it to be done in 3 months, 6 months, 1 week, 2 days? How much time will it take? Because time is a very expensive resource. And how much will it cost also in dollars and cents? So that is a quick overview of the monitoring and evaluation segment of the strategic plan. Hopefully it was helpful and that you know that it is a very important component of the strategic plan. Lots of times consultants offer to stay on to help with the initial monitoring and tracking so that the organization stays focused on their timeline and their tracking responsibilities. Lots of organizations don't want to pay for that phase, and so a good consultant might throw in an extra 10 or 20 hours just so the organization gets off to a good start and has then a framework for knowing what they need to do on their own going forward. Talk to you again soon.